Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we'll talk about pricing management feature. This feature was added to Dynamics 365 version 3.3. This feature is still in preview. And it's meant to change completely the way the sales prices and discounts are defined. We all used to base sales price and the pricing and discounts that we can define via trade agreement journals. So this feature is gonna completely overhaul this process. This feature is meant to be used for any type of sales order. In this video, we'll talk about a sales order created directly in Dynamics 365 client, but we can also extend this scenario to sales orders created via e-commerce, via point of sale, or maybe via a third-party application that integrates its orders into Dynamics 365. So this pricing engine would be available to all these types of sales orders. If we look at the typical price building structure right here, we start with a base price for an item. That base price can come in from a variety of places, and we'll talk about that. Then this base sales price may be overridden by the sales price defined via trade agreement journal. This is a different type of trade agreement journal that has attribute framework enabled, and not to be confused with the batch attribute pricing that was available in Dynamics 365 for a while now. This is a different type of attribute-based pricing that can be used with brand new type of trade agreement journals. Once that base price is defined, it can then be adjusted either positively or negatively via the price adjustments entries. Then discounts would be applied, and then rebates. What I thought to do in this video is start with the most basic example. We're going to start with a brand new item for which no pricing has been defined yet, and we're just going to slowly build on top of it step by step. So how do you define this base sales price? Well, there is a brand new version that is used for that. But before we go there, let's take a look at the item that we will use for our testing. Let's just start with the most basic way to define sales price. Let's define a base sales price on the release product form. We're going to scroll to the Cell tab right here, and let's just populate, for example, $100 here for our base sales price. And let's test it out. Let's just create a sales order for it. So let's pick our customer right here, pick our PM item short, and see that this unit price is defined as $100. This is a functionality that we are all familiar with. Now let's define a base price. For that, we'll navigate to Pricing Management module. We will go to base price versions. So very similar to standard cost versions. In here, I have a standard version that I will use to define all sorts of base prices. So click on prices here, base price, click on new, select our item, select from date, let's make it effective as of March 1st. And in here, let's define our base price to be $95. As you may notice here, I don't have to specify the site. So that's the difference between the standard cost definition, which is site specific, and the base price definition, which is not. What I also failed to notice here is that I have three types of base prices: purchase base price, sales, and inventory base price. Let's say I'm going to define the inventory base price. So I'm about to commit and activate $95 as the inventory base price for my item PM item short. Let's save that, activate, it's scheduled a batch. Let's go to active prices tab, and we can see our base inventory price, $95 right here. Now let's create a sales order for the same item and see what price will be used. Add the same item, scroll to the right, and we see the unit price is $95. Why exactly did system use the inventory base price? Because we saw there were two more additional base prices that were available for us. Well, to answer that question, we'll need to go back to Pricing Management module and take a look at something that is called Price Component Code Setup. Very complicated name, but basically what it resembles is this structure from right here. How exactly my price will be built, and we will take a look at where the system will be pulling that base price. And we can see that my base price is pulling from a component that is called base price inventory, and it has that priority 10, the lowest priority. So this component code is called base price inventory, and that is my base price. If I look at it in a bit more detail, we see that I have created this base price component, and the component type here is called base price inventory price. Right? So that's why the system used that base price to calculate the sales price for my item. What about if I define a base sales price, for example? Well, we can do that as well, right? So let's go back to our standard. Let's go back to our base price, click on new. This way we'll select the base price sales, same item, same date, and let's give a slightly larger number, let's say 300 the base price, activate it, and now we see that 300 as the base sales price. Well, the question, will that price be used on the sales order line? Let's test it. Go back to our order, delete that line, click add the same item, and let's take a look. We still see that the unit price is pulling from the inventory base price. Why is that? Well, that should be fairly clear because our structure here that we have defined under price component code setup is using exclusively inventory base price. It ignores any other base prices that we may have defined for that item, for example, purchase or sales. That is why we see $95 populated on the sales order line. So let's move on to how can we define this trade agreement sales price. And we mentioned that this will have a higher priority and will override any base price that we may have defined for that item. And remember, the inventory base price for that item is $95. Now we will try to change that. In order for us to generate the trade agreement journal, we'll now need to talk about attributes or different inputs into the trade agreement journal line. What I have mentioned here is that we have a trade agreement sales price that is defined via that trade agreement journal with enabled price attribute option enabled. Where would we do that? Let's go back to our pricing management module and go under trade agreement prices. Let's take a look at the trade agreement journal name. In here, I have defined this journal name called PM Journal, Price Management Journal, and you will see there is a brand new checkbox, Enable Price Attributes. If we use that journal, it would allow us to specify those inputs that would be coming from places like customer master, product master, customer attributes, product attributes, and even sales order attributes. So if we want to use that framework, we need to use a journal that has this checkbox enabled. I'll show you different areas from which those inputs for our trade agreements may come from. And here I summarized 11 attributes, components that come from 7 different areas. So the first area is the sales order itself. There is no additional work that I need to do here. It's basically a list of predefined fields from the sales order header that I can use as inputs for my trade agreement journal. So these inputs may include, for example, a sales order type. So I will be using a sales order type such as return order, sales order as one of the inputs to define a sales price for my item on the sales order. The other area from which I can get my inputs for the trade agreement journal would be sales order attributes. So how would I define those? First, we need to go into the pricing management parameters, navigate to price attribute tab. In here I have this sales order attribute group. If I were to look at this, here is this standard attribute group that we can define under product information management module. I created this attribute group and I called it sales order SO attribute group. And I have added 2 attributes to it, order campaign and order channel. If you look at the order campaign, it's a fixed list. So I have defined 3 promos, 3 options available for this attribute. And for the order channel, it's a fixed list again. I have defined wholesale, retail, and e-commerce as 3 channels that we can define for each sales order. So those were 2 attributes that I have defined, and I have assigned them to the attribute group called SO attribute group. And then I added this attribute group under sales order attribute group. So this is a way for me to enable these two attributes as sales order attributes. The third area is the customer master. Here I don't have to do additional work. There is a list of predefined lists from the customer table that I can use to drive my pricing on the trade agreement journal. And I have decided to use two of those fields. One of them is the customer group to which the customer is assigned. Again, we all know about that. And the second one is the price group. Fourth area for our trade agreement inputs would be customer attributes. So very similar to the sales order attributes, I have defined two attributes and I configured them to be customer attributes. So how would I do that? For this, I will stick to the pricing management parameters. Here's my customer attribute group. If I were to open it, here is the attribute that I have created. I called it customer attribute group very creatively. And here I have added two attributes that I have created. The first one I called region. And here I define 5 regions such as North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. And I also define another customer attribute called age range. And in here I have 3 options, 20 to 39, etc. So I have assigned that group under customer attribute group. And now if I were to go to a list of my customers, for example, and navigate to the price tab, I can click on customer attributes. And here I will see these two attributes and I can define the values for each of those two attributes for each customer. So you can see that I've assigned 20 to 39 to that customer, and the region here for this customer is Europe. So this framework is very similar to the product attributes that existed for a while. The area number 5 would be product master fields. So again, there is a predefined list of product master fields that can be used as inputs for the trade agreement creation. I've chosen to use the item number as the one of those fields that I will use to create my trade agreements, because that's usually the field that is primarily used to define sales prices. Area number 6 would be product attributes. So here I have created 2 attributes that I configured as the product attributes. So how did I do that? Well, I've done it via product category. This framework existed for a while. A lot of you are familiar with it. So I have a release product assigned to either commerce product category or procurement category. And then associated attributes with this either commerce or procurement category. And then I would be able to specify values for all these attributes assigned to that category on each individual product that has been assigned to such category. So let me show you. Let's navigate to the list of released products. Let's find our item. Look at the product categories. You see that it has been assigned to that all category that belongs to the retail product category hierarchy. And if we look at this commerce category, let's navigate to the retail and commerce product hierarchy. Here's my AL category right here. You see that 3 products have been assigned to it, including the one that I'll be using. And if I scroll down, I have assigned this default product attribute group to that category. And if I look at attributes that are assigned to that default product attribute group, we'll see there are a bunch of attributes, and 2 of those are called pleaded, which is a yes or no, and the neck, which is the fixed text that has 3 values. But you may notice and say, well, Oleksiy, how about other attributes that have been assigned to that group? Why aren't they going to be used? Well, it's a very good question, I would say. And to answer that, we will navigate to the product information management and we will take a closer look at these attributes. There is a new checkbox that has been added called can be used as price attribute. So in order for that attribute assigned either to the customer or an order or the product to be used as the price attribute, this checkbox has to be checked. So if you do not see your attributes, make sure that they have this checkbox checked. With these attributes defined, we now need to group them. And in order to do that, we'll need to navigate to pricing management module again, and we will navigate to something that is called price attribute groups. Here I have multiple price attribute groups. The ones that I'll be using for this demo is customer basic and the product basic. So let's take a look at the customer basic first. Here I have a list of 7 attributes. So you may recall that all these attributes belong either to the sales order header, sales order attributes, customer master, or customer attribute. These attributes represent sales order header attributes. That's why they have this matching scope as header. So those are the things that can be derived from the sales order header. So for example, my customer attributes, well, I can derive them because I have a customer specified on sales order, and that customer has a list of customer master fields that can be used as the price inputs, and it may also have customer attributes that may be used as the price inputs. Then I also have this sales order attributes that I can use for my inputs for my trade agreement, as well as sales order header fields that can be used. So it's a mixture of those four things. Let me just summarize. So the price group here is the field from the customer master. We all know about that. Customer group here, same thing. It's a field from the customer master. The region here is the customer attribute, right? That's the one that we have assigned to that customer attribute group. The age range also is another customer attribute. So that's a second area from which I'm getting my price-related attributes. And if I scroll down, I will look at the order campaign and order channel. If you recall, those are sales order attributes because they have been added to that sales order attribute group that we have defined on the parameter screen. And the fourth area is the order type. This is a sales order header field, right? So we have the return order, sales order, item requirement, etc. So here I'm trying to illustrate the scope of different inputs that I can use to control the pricing on my sales order. They do not only come from either customer, master, or the sales order header. They may also come from the sales order attribute as well as the customer attribute. So fairly flexible and powerful framework, I believe. You may also notice that I have assigned the rank. The rank will be quite important. So basically, if I have prices that are defined for both price group and, for example, region, and they're different, the system would need to pick one of those prices, and it would always pick the price with the highest rank. There are some configurations, but basically think of it as if there are two competing prices, the price defined for the higher priority attribute will be used. So these are 7 sales order header related attributes. But I also have this product basic attributes, and there are 4. And again, they're coming from different areas. So item master, well, it comes in from the release product master. Then the neck and pleated, if you remember, those are the product attributes that we have assigned to our release product via the product category. And then finally, this line mode of delivery is the field from the sales order line. So this is the third area from which we can pull the attributes on the line level. So here we have this 11 inputs. Now we need to group them, and we're going to combine and group them into the 2 price attribute groups. So now we're going to introduce an additional concept. Let's go to price component codes. In here, without going into much detail, we have these components that we have seen in our code setup. So in here we see a base inventory price, and we've already proven that the base inventory price will be used on our sales order, not different ones, just because that's the way we have configured it. But this base price will be overridden by this trade agreement sales price because it has the higher priority. It has the sequence 20. That's the component right here, and that component is called trade agreement sales. If we look at this component right here, we see that I have added my customer basic attribute group into the header section and the product basic attribute group into my line section. Customer basic should have these 7 attributes. So now we have these 2 components. Each of those components has a number of attributes in it. And now we can combine them into this group combinations. This section right here is automatically defined. Let me show you what I mean. So if I were to delete these and clear these 2 sections right here, you see that this section becomes completely blank. Now I will add my header attribute group, customer basic. I'll add my line attribute group, product basic, and then I can save. When we save that, you see there is only one possible combination because we do not allow all either for header or for lines. But if we introduce this all section and refresh, we see the system now combines and assigns the priority to these combinations. So the highest priority will be assigned to the customer basic, product basic. And that's the highest one. The lower priority will be if I have attributes specified on the sales order header, but all attributes on the sales order line. And then we have a third priority, which includes all attributes from the header and specific attributes on the line. And then the lowest priority is all, which includes basically all possible combinations. And I know it doesn't make sense right now, but I'll try to make it via a few scenarios that I'll illustrate. So we have defined our trade agreement sales component right here. Here are all 4 possible combinations, each with assigned priority. And now, finally, we will start creating trade agreement journals based on these combinations. So for that, let's start with a simple scenario of we define 2 sales prices for the same item, but for different mode of delivery. Mode of delivery is one of our line-related attributes. So in this case, I'm thinking about it doesn't matter what sits on the header, doesn't matter who the customer is, doesn't matter which campaign that sales order belongs to, doesn't matter which price group or customer group this customer belongs to. The only thing that matters for this pricing is the item and the mode of delivery. So you may remember that both of those things can be defined under product basics. So we're going to select this combination that basically anything on the header goes, but for the line, we want to specify things under product basics. So we're going to select this combination and we're going to click on trade agreement journals. We will use that PM journal. Remember, that's the one that has this checkbox checked. And we will click on lines. So far it looks as the ordinary standard trade agreement journal. But if we click on the lines, and now we're going to click on new to add a new line. See what's going to happen. The system will present us the list of 4 attributes. Why 4? Because those are the 4 attributes found in that product basic attribute group. Remember, these attributes are not strictly related to product. Some of them are product attributes, some of them are product master fields, and some of them are sales order line fields. So what I want to do here is to define the sales price for an item number PM item shirt. So I will define it for the mode of delivery 99. 99 is a standard mode of delivery. Let's click on OK. So here's my line. You see that it has this product basic values right here. And for that one, I will define my sales price. Let's scroll to the right. And let's say the sales price will be $85. Then I will click on new. And now I'll define the second line for the same item. And now I'll select this overnight mode of delivery. Click on OK. So here's my second line, right? In order to see the values, we just need to expand it. Here it is, overnight versus 99. And for the overnight, $90. Save that. So now I have 2 sales prices for the same item, but for 2 different modes of delivery. I will then post that trade agreement, and now I will test it on my sales order. Go back to my sales order. Remove that item, add it, navigate to delivery tab, and make sure that the mode of delivery is selected as 99. So now we see a price of $85. That is because the mode of delivery was 99. What if we change that mode of delivery to overnight? Let's do that. And now we can see for the overnight mode of delivery, the price has been updated to $90. So this is a fairly basic scenario where we can have different sales prices defined in trade agreements that are driven by the mode of delivery. Now let's move on to a bit more broader scenario where we want to define the sales prices that are not really product specific, but let's say we want to drive our prices exclusively based on the product attribute. It may be highly unlikely scenario, but I think it will illustrate the power and flexibility of that pricing engine framework that we are discussing here. So what I'll do in this case is I will create a new trade agreement journal. For that, I'll navigate back to my price component codes. And in here, I want to define 2 different prices for 2 different neck attribute values. So I have a neck, I have a t-shirt, right? I have 2 t-shirts. Let's say one had a closed neck and another one had an open neck. So I would want to use these attributes to drive my sales prices. So first, let's take a look at the products that I'll use. So here's my first item. It's assigned to the category that has this NAC attribute defined. So let's take a look at the attributes right here. Here's my NAC right here, and I assign it to the closed NAC. And for this item right here, I have the same attribute but with a different value. In this case, I have an open NAC. Well, again, these both attributes are located in the product basic group. And let's say I don't care about the header fields, I only care about the sales order line fields. So I'm still going to stay with the same combination. Click on the trade agreement journals, select my journal that I've already used, click on lines. So let's click on new. And in here, I will select NAC attribute will be closed. Click OK. And for the closed attribute, I'll define the price to be, as we talked about, $200. And click on another line. And for the attribute open, I will define the price of $210. You see, these prices disregard what the item is, what the mode of delivery is. The only driving force here is the NAC attribute value. So I'm going to pause that and now go back to my sales order and add these two lines. So let's add the second line for my item PM item 2. Let's take a look at the price. We see the price is $200. That is the price for the closed NAC. And we add the third line for PM item 3. And we see that the price here is $210. So for these two items, just to be fair, I did not define a base sales price, neither have I defined any other trade agreements. The only trade agreement lines that are relevant for these two items are the ones that I just created, where we define the price that are specific to the attribute type. So this is an example where I control the pricing purely by the product attribute value. All right, so I hope it makes sense so far. So now we will show you what if I have two prices for an item, but with different attribute values. So let me illustrate. So I have the same product, PM item short, and I will define one price for that item with the NAC value V, and the other price for the same item will be for that pleated attribute yes. Now I will be using this item again. And this item, just let's take a look at the attribute values right here. So this NAC value is V, and the pleated attribute set to yes. And now I will go back to my price component codes. Because I'm only doing it for the item and the product attribute, I can still stay with this combination. So I'm going to click on trade agreement journals, and I'm going to create a third trade agreement right here. Pick the same journal lines. The first line, there are some conditions here, and there are some options here that I really did not talk about here. Allow multiple selection that would allow you to separate values by comma, excluding, but basically we'll just add this exclamation mark to exclude. If you are familiar with advanced filtering criteria, you can look at the matching results and things like that. So you can basically control the results as you enter these values in the parameters. So in here, I will select my item, my short item, and I'll say, well, for the VNAC, which we know that this item has the VNAC, right? Let's just look at the preview matching results. Here it is, only one item, great. This item VNAC, which we know that this item belongs to the VNAC, we will specify the price of $70. And then for the second line, we will select the same item, but the pleated attribute, because it's a Boolean, we're going to set it to yes. And again, we can preview matching results. Again, it should be one item. Here it is. We're going to define a different price. We're going to say it's $60. So the VNAC is $70, but the pleated yes is $60. Post that trade agreement journal. And now let's just envision or anticipate the results. Now we have competing attributes that sit within the same group. That group is called product basics. Let's just open it. So which one of those attributes will have a higher priority? Well, the one that has the highest rank, right? So we see that the NAC has a rank 3 and the pleated has a rank 2. So the $70 that we have defined for the VNAC should take a priority over $60 that we have defined for the pleated yes, right? So let's test it out. We'll navigate to our sales order, add another line for our PM short item. And here it is. It's a $70. That is because nag attribute has the higher rank than the pleated attribute. So this is an example where you have prices that are competing with each other. So the highest ranking attribute or component will win. So now we will go back to our price component codes and let's use attributes from both. We so far use only attributes from the line, right? The product, the mode of delivery on the line, the product attributes and things like that. But now I want to combine these two together and see how it's going to derive, right? So in order for us to combine that and to create a trade agreement for attributes from the header and the lines, we need to use this combination because that's the one that has both of those attribute groups in it. So I'm going to select that line, click on Trade Agreement Journals, pick the same journal, click on the lines. So what I want to do is define 4 prices for the same item, but for different price groups, for different order types, for different regions, and for different order campaigns. Click on New. First of all, you see that now I see attributes from both sales order header. Here are my 7 attributes related to the sales order header. And I also see the same for attributes that come in from the line. For the first one, I'm going to specify a price group. I think there's a price group called Super, right? So let me just use that. Yeah, so Super. Then I will say the item will be the same item. Click OK. That will be $55. For the second line, I will specify the order type. So here's my order type. I'll say, well, if the order type is sales order and the item is the same item, $50 right here. For the third line, I will specify it for the customer region, and the customer region that I'll use here will be Europe, and it will be the same item. And the price for that line will be $45. And finally, I'll add one more line and I'll specify it for the order campaign will be, let's say, promo 3, same item. And that price will be $60. So that may be very confusing, right? So I have the only common thing here is the same item, but then I have 4 different drivers: price group, order type, region, order campaign, all those things coming from somewhere in the header. Let me just post that journal and we're going to test it. So first, I will show you that all these attributes would apply to the sales order at hand. So the first thing we need to check is the price group, right? Because I want to make sure that the price group to which that customer Mara belongs is Super, right? So here's my customer account. I will click on View Details. And in here, under price group, we see it's Super. So this line is definitely applicable because the price group for that customer account is Super. The second thing we need to check would be the customer attribute region for that customer. In order for us to check, we'll navigate to the customer attribute. We see the region here for that customer is specified as Europe. So that line that we have defined, that price should also be applicable. And the 2 other things that we need to confirm would be on the order itself. So the first thing would be the sales order. So that line should also be applicable because the order type is sales order. And the last thing that I did not show to you yet are the sales order attributes. So here under price tab, we have the sales order attributes tab. And in here, I want to make sure that my order campaign would be promo 3. All 4 things should be applicable to that sales order based on its attribute, based on the customer, and based on its attribute as well. So which one of those prices would be applied? So let's take a look. Select that item number, and we see the price of $55 has been applied. So let me show you the table that I've been using here. So the price that was applied is this one. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest. Why was it chosen? Well, we need to understand the priorities here, right? Because all those things, price group, order type, region, and order campaigns, are the sales order attributes. And remember, for each of those attributes, we have assigned a rank. So if we look at the ranking right here, we see that the price group has the highest priority compared to the region, compared to the order campaign or order type. So as long as we have a match on the price group, which we do, this is the price that will be applicable. Well, what happens if we change the price group for that customer from Super, for which we have defined this $55 price to something else? Would another price be applicable? Yes. So let's do that. So what I'll do here is I'll navigate to that customer account and I'll assign that customer to a different price group. So instead of super, I will go and maybe change it to central. Go back to my sales order. I have a situation where the price group super is no longer applicable to that sales order because the customer does not belong to that price group anymore. So what would happen? We will go and we will add one more line finally to that order and save it. And if we look at the price for that sales order, we see the price now has been updated to 45. Why was it 45? First of all, let's see where that 45 comes from. It comes in from the region 45. So this price is no longer applicable because the price group is no super, right? It's central. So it's going to go down the ranking to see what else do I have. It's going to go, so the price group, no match. Do I have the price defined for this customer group? Because this is a next highest ranking. No, we don't. Okay, do I have a price defined for the region? Oh, yes, we do. What is it? Well, for the region Europe, because this customer belongs to European region, we have defined the price of $45. And so on and so forth. If we have changed the region for that customer, it will then go to the next level, and the next level here would be age range, and it's going to see if there is any prices defined for that age range. We don't have anything. And the next is going to go to the next priority, next rank, and it's going to look at the order campaign. And if it found the match on the order campaign, because that was set up for the promo 3 order campaign, in this case, it would have applied the price of $60. I know it's a dramatic change to an existing trade agreement pricing structure, which is much more rigid. It only looks at the price groups, line discount groups, on the items and the customers, and those are the only predefined inputs. This framework is much more flexible. As you have hopefully seen from my demo here, we are looking at the variety of inputs that come in from variety of sources, and I tried to illustrate how we control the sales pricing here using this variety of sources. Of course, it's only introduction to that module. I did not really talk about price adjustments and discounts, which are kind of the next building blocks. And as I said, that this pricing engine will be available to point of sale, e-commerce orders, and any other third-party orders that will be coming in via integration or API into Dynamics 365. So overall, I think it's a fairly dramatic step forward. I really applaud Microsoft for making that change. I hope you find that video useful, and until the next time.